Hey man, we back with another one, man. I don't know if y'all remember this one, or if y'all even remember this guy, Jared Fogle, man. Dude used to be on all the Subway commercials, promoting all the sandwiches, saying how he lost weight. Man, whole time, man, we looking at this dude like inspiration. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he did that with that, and he was that size. Oh yeah, we could do that too. Whole time, this man's a fucking child predator, man. This shit's crazy, man. This shit's fucking wild, man. Let's get into it though.
When most people think of fame, they think of a person getting recognition or attention for being skilled in some way, shape, or form. Being a tremendous actor, an above average singer, a fantastic lyricist are all reasons why one might make millions of dollars every year and be revered by their peers. Even celebrities who are supposedly famous for just being famous are blessed with skills that make them brilliant at keeping the media's attention and focus on them and turning that into profit. Usually, in the cases that we cover involving celebrities, they are universally adored for their incredible skills and over time have lost touch with their own humanity. They feel above normal people and therefore not beholden to any law. However, that couldn't be further from the truth with today's subject, as he made millions and gained fame by simply eating a sandwich every day.
Mr. Fogle, no denying your body's changed over the years.
Yes.
Sir, this committee must know, did you ingest anything that helped create this change in your physique?
Yes.
Go on.
Usually a 6-inch turkey breast sub for lunch and a foot-long veggie delight for dinner.
You get those over the counter?
Yes, at a Subway restaurant.
What is this? Excellent. We're going to need more evidence.
Am I free to go?
Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, brought to you in part by our Patreon. Over the past week or so, our videos have randomly been struck by YouTube, with certain videos getting their comments shut down for hours at a time, and other videos simply not appearing on our channel or in search results. In a couple of instances, our whole channel was not appearing site-wide, which was concerning, but seemingly more of a glitch than anything. We've been trying to work this out behind the scenes, but if something were to occur with our videos on this platform, we will always have the original edits of our videos on Patreon for your consumption. I will leave it down in the description if you feel inclined to check it out, but with any luck, YouTube will sort itself out. I want to make it clear that even if all of the videos are demonetized and struck, I would still create content and put it on this platform in whatever way YouTube will allow. Even if there is no money to be made, I will still make content and make it free to be viewed for everyone. The Patreon is just in case anyone wanted to support the channel itself. Today, we're going to be talking about the case of Jared Fogle, better known as Subway Jared. This case was everywhere when it broke, but there have been plenty of updates.
If y'all want to support this channel, shop DTL92.com. DTL92.com.
On it that most people don't know, as they haven't been widely reported on. This video was by far our most requested video, with over 100 comments being left asking for me to cover this story. If you have a suggestion of a subject you would like to see covered, feel free to leave it in the comments down below or send me an email. If you like true crime content and would like to...
It's the same thing. Y'all got anybody y'all want me to cover? Any case y'all got that y'all want me to react to? Shoot me that, you know what I'm saying?
see more, please consider liking and subscribing. With that said, let us begin. Jared Fogle was born August 23, 1977, in Indianapolis, Indiana. Growing up, Fogle was a good-natured, well-liked kid. However, he became obsessed with video games early on. Every day, Jared would spend hours sitting in front of his parents' television and playing whatever new game he acquired. He would rush through homework and any family time just to get back to playing video games, and it became the center of his life. His love for video games masked something much bigger though, and that was his love for food. Every time Jared would sit down to play for hours on end, he would surround himself with snacks to make sure he didn't need to get up mid-level to eat. He'd raid his parents' pantry for chips, sweets, and whatever he could get his hands on. By the time he was done gaming, they would all be gone. In a couple of hours, he would have mindlessly eaten his way through multiple bags of Doritos, Cheetos, boxes of Pop-Tarts, cereal, and liters of soda. This was his normal routine all throughout his childhood. By the time he was 19 and going to Indiana University, Bloomington, he weighed 425 pounds. By that time, he was drinking, on average, 15 cans of soda and eating upwards of 10,000 calories a day, all while playing video games. This has been Jared's life for a long period of time. He was used to being overweight and struggling more than his friends to do certain things. Walking across campus was a struggle. He found himself leaving a lot earlier to go to class than the rest of his friends. He would often be sweaty and out of breath. Going anywhere with friends, likewise, proved to be a struggle, as he would constantly have to request they slow down their pace for him. Even staying awake became an issue. But that would all change one day while driving to school. Jared suffered from sleep apnea because of his obesity and hadn't been sleeping well for quite some time. Because of his intense exhaustion, he had begun to sporadically fall asleep in public, leading to multiple embarrassing moments. But it wasn't until one day while driving back to campus, when Jared fell asleep at the wheel and crashed his car into a tree, that he realized that his weight had gotten out of control, and he desperately needed to change his ways. Realizing that the crash could have killed him and others around him, he was determined to make a change. He decided that in the coming new year, he was going to dedicate himself to losing weight and being a more active person. And unlike so many New Year's resolutions, he followed through. Jared had decided that he was going to change his eating habits entirely. He switched to a diet that any nutritionist or dietitian would never recommend. The diet consisted of him eating at the fast food restaurant Subway, with him getting only one small turkey sub in the morning and one large veggie sub at night, along with baked potato chips and a diet soda. As for why Jared chose Subway, according to him, he lived just 10 steps away from one on campus, and he didn't want to do more than that. Of course, the diet worked, as any calorie deficit diet will cause you to lose weight, but the radical shift from 10,000 calories daily to less than 2,000 could have caused real damage to his metabolism and his body in general. But Jared made the diet himself, and he could care less about the actual effects on his body, sans the weight loss. All he knew is that his diet was working, and others were taking notice. So much so that Jared was featured in an article written by his former roommate about his weight loss for the Indiana Daily Student, which was the on-campus newspaper. The article talked about how in the span of 1 year, Jared had going from 425 to 180 pounds, and how when they had seen each other on campus, Jared had lost so much weight that he couldn't even recognize him. Jared spoke about how his life had ultimately changed for the better, and how he was now able to do things he never dreamed of doing, like leisurely walking around the campus. The article landed on the front page of the Indiana Student Daily for the sheer spectacle of it all, but oddly enough, it ended up garnering the attention of Dwayne Swarinski, a writer for the magazine Men's Health. Serendipitously, the writer was working on an article about weird diets that actually worked, and stumbled upon Jared's Subway story. The image of a man dropping 245 pounds in a year was startling, and Dwayne decided that he would include the story in the next issue. But because he wasn't able to get a hold of Jared prior to the publication, he changed his name to James. After the Men's Health article came out, the story of a man who lost more than half his body weight by eating at a fast food chain, Subway realized they had something special on their hands and quickly contacted Jared. They wanted to take his story to the next level and use it in their marketing. They spoke to Jared about appearing in commercials and telling his story, and Jared, of course, accepted, thinking that at the most, he would star in some locally broadcast commercials for a summer. He had no idea how momentous the reaction would be.
Here is Jared Fogle. You may have seen him on the news or a talk show. He was inspired by Subway's great-tasting sandwiches. Jared believes in an active lifestyle, including lots of walking. At the heart of Jared's routine are Subway sandwiches.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, guys.
At Subway, you can choose from 7 sandwiches with 6 grams of fat or less, and they all taste great. Food for thought. Subway, it's the way a sandwich should be.
This program is brought to you by Subway, the way a sandwich should be.
The first Subway ad featuring Jared aired on January 1st, 2000, and immediately took off. Most people who saw it were convinced that a diet that consisted of eating nothing but fast food would cause them to lose weight and was somehow healthier than alternative methods, not realizing that what they were doing was a crash diet with a very low likelihood of success. But because Jared was an average guy who could say it worked for him and had pictures to prove it, people flocked to Subway to try it for themselves. People were likewise tricked into thinking that Subway was healthier than other fast food options at the time. Jared, touting his weight loss and their continued slogan of "Eat Fresh," convinced an entire generation of people that eating there was better than any other fast food place, despite it being just about the same. Subway immediately pounced on Jared, realizing that his everyman persona was the perfect jumping-off point for ads. There was nothing special about Jared. He just looked like a run-of-the-mill guy who looked like he could live next door to you, which made him more trustworthy to the consumer. His story appealed to the everyday person because they understood what it was like to have gained weight unintentionally and seeing someone who wasn't cool or famous, who didn't have access to a nutritionist or a dietitian, and who had just decided he was going to lose the weight and do so successfully appealed to them. Psychologically, people respond better to marketing when it comes from a source that they feel they can relate to, rather than someone they feel is being paid to promote a product. This is often called brand relatability. Though Subway had had celebrity athletes promote their products, the sales were minuscule in comparison to the ads featuring Jared, as people felt they could trust him, seeing as he was just some guy. Of course, the heads of advertising at Subway realized this immediately, and after the resounding success of his first ad, they offered him the deal of a lifetime for $1.1 million per year or $91,000 per month. Jared would agree to appear in countless ads for the brand, including to do nationwide appearances at grand openings and Subway-specific events. Jared, who was just 22 and fresh out of college with no further prospects, swiftly agreed. The success of the ad campaign led to him being interviewed by the Herald Times, where they went into detail about how unattainable his weight loss had been, and how most people would have experienced withdrawal-like symptoms with such a swift caloric deficit. Regardless, Jared said it's what worked for him, and went further to say, "This weight loss, it's like it's given me my life back. I'm an average guy now, and it feels really good to be average." But Jared wasn't an average guy. The success of the Subway campaign was monumental, and Jared became one of the most successful spokespersons of all time. In the following year, after the campaign, Subway's sales would grow 18%, then another 16% after that. Subway sponsored a national tour for Jared, where he would appear at Subways across America, talk about the benefits of fitness and healthy eating, which he knew virtually nothing about, and then eat his famous Subway sandwiches in front of everyone in attendance. He'd also been able to, for the first time in his life, be part of a romantic relationship. After his weight loss and the first commercial airing, Jared had started seeing a fellow Indianapolis University graduate who he had been interested in for a while. After about a year of dating, the pair decided to get married, and she was even featured in some of the Subway ads. In 2001, after getting married to his first wife and continuing to tour the country and eat, Jared was interviewed by the Herald Times once more and stated about his increased celebrity. "I'm not like an actor or a singer. This is something that's going to have a limited lifespan. I know that. I just want to maximize the experience." And maximize it he did.
So without further ado, let's welcome Jared Fogle.
My big thing was never smoking, it was never drinking, obviously it wasn't doing drugs. My big vice was food. And before I knew it, I wound up weighing 425 pounds. I brought in a present for you. My old pants that are now made famous in all the Subway commercials. There you go. You're welcome.
This is my daughter, Victoria. She's an 8th grade honor student, and you're a real inspiration to the kids. I really appreciate that.
In 2004, after being the spokesperson for Subway for 4 years, Jared established the Jared Foundation, which was superficially lauded as a nonprofit organization with a focus on raising awareness around childhood obesity through educational programs. The foundation worked in unison with Jared, and he would go on speaking tours to middle schools, talking to kids about how to be healthy and stay active and how this should be a priority for them. And he would bring out the pants he used to wear when he was 425 pounds as a storytelling device. For most of the children meeting Jared, he was the only celebrity they had ever come into contact with, and they thought he was insanely cool. After his speeches, he would hang out around the school, signing autographs, giving advice, and playing games with the kids on the schoolyard. Despite the many photo ops, press events, and speeches given across the world, the foundation was a thinly veiled attempt for Jared to make money without being taxed. No grants were ever issued by the foundation towards any meaningful action towards preventing or combating childhood obesity. And Jared would ask the various schools and corporations to make their checks out for his speaking engagements to the Jared Foundation, so they could be used for his own pleasure. This is something that plenty of celebrities and now even social media stars take part in, creating their own nonprofit organizations as a means to make more money without having to pay taxes on it. Celebrities like the Kardashians even have their own churches for the same reason. As Jared traveled around the world, opening new subways, talking at schools and Little League games, he began to garner a less than savory reputation to those who spent more time around him. Despite his affable, everyman persona, Jared had begun stepping out on his wife in a massive, not-so-private way. Much like Tiger Woods had, Jared began to carry out large-scale affairs with multiple different women, as well as sleeping with various sex workers he met on the road. It would later come to light that on average, he spent $12,000 per year on escorts, all the while touring the country to speak to kids. His personable character was just that, a character, and the moment the cameras were off, he turned into a completely different person. After spending the day talking about health and fitness, Jared would retire to a strip club, spending thousands of dollars on various women, in the hopes of getting one or more girls to come back to his hotel room. But he wasn't just into one-off casual sex, as he had also begun to have years-long sentimental relationships with women across the country. One of the many women he would begin to have a relationship with outside of his marriage was radio host Rochelle Herman Walrand. The pair met in 2007 at a middle school health event that he was speaking at, and almost at once, the conversation turned sexual, with them meeting up every time he came to Florida. Less than a year after beginning his affair with Rochelle, Jared's first wife filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The divorce itself wasn't highly publicized, as Jared's immense fame had nothing to do with his own personal life. However, the documents that his ex-wife filed against him showcased a completely different side to the fake philanthropist that should have been a warning sign to those who knew him. His ex not only filed for divorce, she also filed a temporary restraining order against Fogle, citing that he had an obsessive mean streak and was keen on making her miserable. The last years of their marriage, Jared had become a cruel, controlling person who would use his fame to embarrass her in public.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I can't necessarily judge him for doing what he doing for the kids and then going out to strip clubs or whatever. I mean, he's still doing work for the community. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what he doing in his own time is really on him. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, we know what the outcome is, his story is. But as far as like with that, I can't really, you know what I'm saying? I can't really speak on. I mean, I don't really know none business what he doing in his personal time.
On the rare occasions he would take her on dates, he'd spend the duration of the time yelling at her, trying to make her cry, and then go on to say her reaction was the reason he never wanted to be around her. The restraining order had been granted, and the divorce was quickly settled. Though Jared had begun to see Rochelle regularly and would talk to her near daily, he decided to pursue a relationship with another woman, Kathleen McLaughlin. He still saw and slept with Rochelle and countless other women when he traveled, two of which have come forward and shown proof of their years-long affairs with him as well. But he felt as if Kathleen was the better choice for a spouse. Kathleen was a teacher and more than all right with Jared's hectic schedule, thinking that the work he was doing around the country was important. Like Jared's first wife, she bought into the everyman persona he held, and while in her presence, he was always on his best behavior. Jared had known Kathleen since 1999, and they had been friends throughout his first marriage. Given his propensity for cheating, it is likely that they had been sleeping together during this time as well, but neither have admitted to doing so. It was also through these speaking tours put on by his foundation that Jared met Russell Taylor, who he would appoint as the executive director of the foundation. Little did he know that Taylor would be the reason his true nature would be revealed. While Jared was the famous figurehead behind the Jared Foundation who everyone looked up to, Russell Taylor was his right-hand man, who was indebted to Jared and did just about everything for him, regardless of legality. Not much was known about Taylor before he came into contact with Jared, as he wasn't a well-known public figure. But what would later come to light would be more than alarming. Taylor met Jared while he was working as the youth market director for the American Heart Association, which of course put him in contact with a bevy of children. While Fogle was on one of his speaking tours and speaking at 3 different elementary schools in the area, he met Taylor and asked him if he could help write a speech he had to make in Illinois. Respecting the spokesperson and wanting to help, Russell wrote the entire speech for Fogle, which he liked so much that he began to bring Russell with him everywhere he went. The two men became inseparable, with Jared welcoming Russell into every aspect of his life. The men would spend hours a day working with children and speaking out against childhood obesity, and then go on to spend their nights at strip clubs and casinos with a variety of different women. Unlike Jared, Taylor had an open marriage, and his wife, Angela Baldwin, was more than accepting of his wild lifestyle. For the first time since becoming famous, Jared seemed to have found someone he could trust and rely on. Other people had expected him to follow through on his nice guy persona, and had seemed shocked when he acted outside of that. Russell, however, seemed just as depraved as he was, and when he would ask Russell to do something for him, he did it without judgment. In one instance, while at a strip club, Jared told Russell that if he could get one of the strippers to come home with them, he would pay him handsomely. And of course, Taylor was able to make that happen. In order to legitimize their friendship, as well as make sure they would be able to continue their depraved escapades, Jared offered Russell the role of a lifetime. He asked Russell if he would become the director of the Jared Foundation. This would allow him to be paid to travel with Jared across the globe, where they could take in everything the world had to offer them sexually. This meant, of course, global sex tourism, as the pair would fly to places like Thailand, Indonesia, and more, under the umbrella of wanting to end child obesity. By day, Jared and Russell would talk to schools and various conventions, and by night, they would have sex with who or whatever they could. As for Russell, his sexual interests also included animals. Using money raised by the foundation, Jared paid Russell hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to go on these trips and stay in 5-star accommodations, and for a while, no one was the wiser. Because of their constant travel overseas and drug use, Russell began to get paranoid that someone had been stealing from him. To offset his paranoia, he began to place hidden security cameras both in his office and in his home, with the hope that if there was any theft, he would be able to quickly identify the culprit. The cameras were hidden in small electronics, like alarm clocks, and were motion activated, only recording when they sensed someone was present, at which point they would immediately save and send the video to Russell's computer. Good lord. According to Russell's sentencing memorandum, this led to his first instance of him capturing child pornography, which he swore was completely accidental. While Jared and Taylor had traveled out of the country, a camera that he had installed in his home office had alerted him to movement, and when he accessed the video, he found that an intern had had sex in his office with her boyfriend. Both parties were underage. Later, he told Jared about the security footage, and Jared was incredibly interested. He wanted to see the video and instructed Taylor to put more cameras around his home, with the hopes that he would be able to catch more sexually explicit encounters. Jared also requested.
Wait. So you telling me this dude set up hidden cameras in his home and his bathrooms, and he started recording minors having sex in his? How's that? Like, who is these minors that's having sex in his house? Is these his family members? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, then he's selling this video to the subway dude? What type of fucking weird ass shit is that? Like,
That Taylor get footage of specific children that he was interested in, and Taylor would create situations in which the footage could be obtained. He would regularly have children stay at his home, in a room that had a secret camera, and record them changing and bathing. Oftentimes,
what the fuck? This man had a kid standing at home under a fucking camera. Bro, this shit, bro. This shit is wicked, bro. This shit wicked, bro. Who is these kids that he's just offering his place to? Who is these kids that he's just offering his place to? That's like I don't understand that. Like we need more details. Like
He would ply the children and teens with alcohol, getting them completely wasted, so they would be more out of it and unaware of their surroundings, which Jared preferred. He would then review the footage and make sure it was good enough for Jared. If so, it would be sent along, but if not, he would keep it for himself. The relationship between Fogle and Taylor at this point superseded that of just friends or coworkers, as Jared began to take pleasure in controlling Taylor's entire life. He would often remind Taylor that he was his boss, and went so far as to buy Taylor a house, which he would lord over him. The following is an excerpt from Taylor's sentencing memorandum. Throughout this entire time, Mr. Fogle maintained a controlling influence over Mr. Taylor, remind him frequently that he controlled his employment and his home. Mr. Fogle would refer to himself as Mr. Taylor's daddy, and there would often be discussions of how much Mr. Taylor loved Daddy, and reminding him that Daddy was paying for his things. Mr. Fogle would even go so far as making Mr. Taylor eat things that were inconsistent with his gluten intolerance. Oh my god. For Jared, the relationship with Russell had transformed from a friendship into a semi-sexual dominant power dynamic. He enjoyed the fact that Russell relied on him for money and employment, and he enjoyed toying with his sense of security, and enjoyed seeing how far he could push Russell. But as it would later come to light, this kind of abusive power dynamic was nothing new to Taylor. According to court documents, Taylor's entire childhood had been plagued by sexual and physical abuse. When he was between the ages of 5 and 8, an older neighbor boy would begin to sexually abuse him regularly. This boy was much older than he was, and he would threaten Taylor after the assaults, telling him that if he were to tell anyone about how he'd been sexually assaulted, he would kill Taylor and his entire family. On at least one occasion, these threats of violence were followed through on, as Taylor had been shot in the back with a pellet gun by his neighbor. The only reason the sexual abuse stopped outright is because when Taylor turned 8, his parents divorced, and he moved in with his mother, who likewise began physically abusing him daily. She would beat Taylor with anything that was available to her, and he often tried to gain her favor by running errands for her and getting her gifts, not unlike what he would do for Jared. When he eventually moved back with his father when he was 15 years old, multiple of his father's friends began to sexually assault him as well, with upwards of 6 women admitting to sleeping with him before he was 18. The abuse he went through does not, however, justify the various abuses he did onto others. While it can explain his sexual compulsions and the reason as to why he had no qualms with exploiting these children, nothing can justify what he would go on to do with Jared Fogle. Taylor was depraved prior to meeting Fogle, but would only get more depraved during their friendship. In a previous video I made about Ian Watkins, I discussed how his ex-girlfriend Joanna had reported Ian's crimes against children and was ignored for years by the police. In order to get him off the streets and keep him from abusing anyone else, Joanna took it upon herself to collect evidence against him, which involved her pretending to be okay with the abuse he was inflicting against children. Joanna thought that if she got irrefutable proof, that she could no longer be ignored by the powers that be, and spent years sending emails, letters, and going into police departments directly, showcasing her want to bring Ian to justice. Despite this, evidence of Ian sleeping with actual babies and children was hand-waved and ignored by the police, who refused to look at what she was showing them, as they thought she was just a bitter ex-girlfriend. Even after he was brought to justice, and Joanna's efforts to showcase what he had done were brought to light, the police arrested her and tried to state that she was also a pedophile, despite direct evidence showing her reporting him for years. Unfortunately, that sort of law enforcement inaction was not just a one-time thing.
bro, what the fuck, bro? They just said this man was, oh my goodness, man, oh my. What type of world we living in when you try to expose a pedophile and the tables get turned on you?
Rochelle Herman Walrand experienced the same thing with Jared Fogle. After Jared and Rochelle had entered into a sexual relationship, he began making offhand remarks that she felt were alarming. The first of which was when he stated that he found middle school girls to be sexy. This alarmed Rochelle, and she later went to the Sarasota, Florida Police Department with her concerns, but she was brushed off. He hadn't done anything wrong technically, they said, and they couldn't just arrest him because he thought a child was attractive. Still, Rochelle couldn't let his comments go, and the more she spoke to him, the worse they seemed to get. After being dissuaded by the police, Rochelle realized that she needed to get concrete evidence against Jared if she wanted something to be done. So instead of distancing herself away from the predator, she placated his lust of children and baited him, pretending to be interested in what he was saying. Jared appeared to instantly trust her and told her various stories about how he had sex with children all over the world and how he was attracted to kids, regardless of their age and gender. According to him, the younger the child was, the better the experience, and he would often pay mothers and other women if they were able to procure a child for him. She kept their text messages and recorded various phone calls with him, where he would recount.
Bro, that's some R. Kelly shit, bro. Bro, this shit is fucking sick, bro. Like, what the fuck, bro? Wow, bro. Wow, bro. What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with? What the fuck are we dealing with? We got people that's propped up to be celebrities and to be idols, and this what they doing. This who they really is. This shit is wild, man. Like, this shit is wild, bro.
Tales of abuse to her, and she would listen to him without complaint. However, as a mother herself, she felt disgusted by his actions, and only persevered because she thought if she got enough evidence, she could stop him. Originally, this portion of the video had the audio from the phone calls, but seeing as they were played on the Dr. Phil show, I can't place them in this video without it being copyright blocked in all territories. I will leave a link in the description to the video where Rochelle talks about her experience with Jared and the audio recordings that are played. Once again, Rochelle would bring the text messages and audio to law enforcement, this time to the FBI. However, despite the audio of him willfully admitting to having sex with minors, wanting to have sex with children, and traveling across state lines to do so, the agents that Rochelle met told her that what she provided still wasn't enough to arrest Jared, or really look into him any further. According to former FBI agent Eileen Romer, who was apprised of the case, what Rochelle provided couldn't constitute physical evidence of any wrongdoing, as Jared simply talking about wanting to have sex with a child wasn't technically against the law.
Bro, how is that not? How is her telling y'all what this man is saying and thinking and doing? How is that not enough for y'all to start an investigation into him? If it was drugs or anything like that, any other shit, or if it was a black man, bro, this shit's wild, bro. This shit is sick. This shit, this shit's sick, bro. This shit disgusting, man. This shit, man. This shit, man. This is some, man. This is what we dealing with in this fucking society in America. Now you keep playing and acting like this shit ain't out here, and this shit ain't a lot of fucking evil, wicked shit going on. And you can play on your own. You can play on your top and act like it ain't no wicked shit going on out here. And yeah, you can get man, bro.
Also posited that just because Jared had recounted stories to Rochelle about meeting up with underage prostitutes and sleeping with his friends' daughters, this wasn't technically evidence of any wrongdoing. Eileen went so far as to state, without any physical evidence of him violating the law, they wouldn't have any reason to continue an investigation of him beyond the original preliminary look into him regarding information that was provided. It seemed that unless Jared were to actively send Rochelle child pornography, he would continue to get away with his crimes. Because of the FBI's total inaction in regards to this case, many have decided that Rochelle was actually as sexually depraved as Jared. People who have looked at and reported on aspects of this case find it utterly disturbing that the evidence that she recorded for years on end was overlooked by the FBI, and find it more plausible that she's simply lying. Why would the FBI not investigate someone claiming to have slept with a 9-year-old, which is something that Rochelle recorded Jared saying? That said, if you have watched our video on Larry Nassar, in which it was shown that the FBI purposely overlooked claims of children being sexually abused by the USA Gymnastics head doctor because he was promised a better job, then you would know that this kind of action happens regularly. Rochelle's backlog of evidence showcasing how many times she spoke.
Bro, they just said the FBI was purposely not looking into shit with Larry Nassar. And I know that was the gymnast or something like that. I'm gonna cover him too. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna bring that to y'all attention too with him. I don't know that whole story. I heard about it, but I don't know the whole story. But man, I don't even think I even want to cover that, man. It's like, do I even want to cover that? Do I even want to hear what that man probably did?
Spoke to law enforcement about Jared, the number of reports she put in against the sandwich peddler, which she has been more than forthcoming about, and her continued.
I don't think I can do no more child stuff, bro. I can't do no more of that shit, man. I can't do no more of that child shit, man. I can't do it.
Freedom speaks for itself. Much like with Ian Watkins and Larry Nassar, law enforcement had hard evidence of wrongdoing, but simply failed to act. Worse still, multiple former FBI agents, like Eileen Romer, have defended the FBI's total inaction, saying that they simply couldn't have known, even though it was clear they could have. The FBI told Rochelle that they appreciated what she was doing and wanted her to work as an informant with them, with the hopes that she could get the more concrete evidence. Rochelle obliged, feeling as if it were up to her to bring Jared to justice. But talking to him about his pedophilic attraction and actions had begun to take a negative toll on her. She was a mother of 2 young children, and hearing him talk about kids the same age made her feel disgusted, and she began to distance herself from them. He had made her feel dirty, and as if they would be tainted by her presence. After she would talk to him, she would sit in a dark room for hours, crying and making herself sick over the things she spoke to him about, knowing that it still wasn't enough to arrest him. Unfortunately, just like Joanna before her, the evidence that she would provide would only go on to showcase how much more could have been done to protect the children who were being abused, as his arrest would be based on a completely separate investigation.
Jane Doe.
In September 2014, an investigation into Russell Taylor was opened by the Indiana State Police after an anonymous woman came forward and reported that Russell had offered to send her sexually explicit images of children and animals. Jane Doe had been friends with Russell and his wife for years and was introduced to them by her late husband. The couples had socialized often, and when her husband died, she maintained contact with them. Because the couple had an open relationship, she wasn't alarmed when Russell.
That's the bitch ass. That's the bitch ass boy who was giving Fogle bitch ass all his little videos and shit. Yeah, it's the bitch ass boy who was calling Fogle daddy.
began to send her sexual images, and at times reciprocated his interest. However, he had sent her multiple messages that she found to be alarming. The arrest affidavit directly states that Jane Doe informed Detective Getz and Sergeant Cecil that she boards horses at her property, and Taylor sent text messages asking her if he and Angela could come over and engage in sexual activity with a horse. When asked if she thought Taylor was joking, Jane Doe responded that she could tell Taylor was serious. Jane Doe stated that Taylor sent a text message to her that indicated a photo of a dog licking the nude genitalia of a woman with the caption, "Here's Angie with her ex's dog." Jane Doe showed this photo to Detective Getz and Sergeant Cecil during the interview. The document continues by saying, Jane Doe told Detective Getz and Sergeant Cecil that Taylor sent her a text message asking if she wanted to see images of young girls. Taylor asked Jane Doe how young she was okay with, and she responded, legal age, to which Taylor responded, okay, I wanted to ask, LOL. Keep in mind, we do travel to Thailand on occasion. Sergeant Cecil inquired if Taylor sent images of young girls to her, and Jane Doe responded, no. When asked if Taylor ever expressed interest in having sex with children, Jane Doe replied, not that I can remember, but he's the type of person that seems to be very sexually involved in whatever. Detective Getz asked Jane Doe if Taylor had sent any other images of sexual activity with animals, and she responded that the only image she received from him was the photo of the dog. She explained that Taylor and Angela liked to be sexually involved with other things, like messing around with horses and bondage, using handcuffs, ropes, and stuff. Jane Doe then gave her phone over to the police, who were able to find that on various occasions, Russell had sent links to her that contain explicit content of.
Bro, they just said that this man and his girlfriend like to fuck animals. Now, I'm not gonna say act like it's the first time I heard that, or act like I never even seen it, because I didn't ran across a video that was on Facebook of some fucking wild, weird shit. But this shit, like I said, even with that Facebook shit, all this shit play a role together, all this shit together, all this shit. Yeah, when you post your kids on Facebook, yeah, when you do all that shit, yeah, they want you to do that. They want you to keep posting your kids and all that shit on Instagram and on Facebook. They want you to keep doing that. Yeah, yourself too. Yeah, everybody. Your little son and your little girl. They want you to keep doing that. Y'all just do it. Post your kids in the tub. Post your kids pamper chain, all type of shit. Then you motherfuckers wonder why shit going on and your kids end up missing and shit.
Animals. Whether she opened those links remained to be seen. There were various videos sent from him to her of men and women with horses and dogs, and it seemed as if his ultimate goal was to get her to consent to him having sex with one or more of her horses. Because of his statement implying that he had sex with minors in Thailand and had engaged in sexual intercourse with animals, all of which he purported to have images and videos of, the Indiana State Police realized that it was entirely likely that they had been producing child porn. They quickly obtained a search warrant and were able to raid his home and found thousands of self-produced images and videos of child porn and bestiality, some of which featured his own family members. Shortly after Taylor was arrested, various members of his family and friends came forward to discuss how he had likewise sexually abused them on occasion. Taylor was arrested and before pleading guilty, tried to state that the accusations against him and all the proof had been falsified, as Jane Doe had a secret sexual relationship with not one, but three of the detectives that had investigated her claims, and it was all part of a strange love triangle. When that response wasn't met with the response he had hoped for, he quickly changed his tune and began to cooperate with the investigation. informing them that he had produced child porn, but had done so at the request of his boss, Jared Fogle. Russell's arrest made headlines nationally, as he was the head of a nonprofit organization that worked directly with children and kids. Many couldn't believe what was going on, and in response, Jared put out a statement condemning Russell's actions and stating that he had been none the wiser. Though many who knew Jared personally and had seen the pair together felt as though there was no way Russell could have done something like this without him knowing. People were still quick to give Jared the benefit of the doubt. He was a nice guy after all. Jared spoke to Russell once after the arrest and stated that if Russell stayed quiet about his part in their crimes, he would continue to take care of Angela in their home. He assured Russell that despite the jail sentence, he would stick by him privately, putting money in his commissary regularly, and making sure that his family was taken care of. Little did Jared know that Russell didn't need to turn on him, as the evidence already had. Neither of them had covered their tracks, or were competent enough not to have spoken about their illegal sexual escapades publicly, so it was only a matter of time before the house of cards came falling down.
Hi, I'm Jared the Subway guy, and this is my story. Young guy eats too much junk food and gains a lot of weight. Guy changes his life by eating at Subway twice a day and walking a lot. Guy loses over 200 pounds and keeps weight off for 17 years. Guy now has 2 kids, and even more reason to pass on better eating habits to young people everywhere. This is my story. Ready to write yours? Subway, eat fresh.
Though Fogle maintained publicly that he had no idea Taylor had been making child pornography in the home he had purchased for him, the police found a veritable treasure trove of evidence that showed otherwise. Neither Taylor nor Fogle had thought they were on any law enforcement radar, which made all of their crimes all the more obvious. When Taylor had been arrested and his phone had been taken from him, the police found that Taylor had recently sent Jared a video featuring a child, and that Jared had sent multiple texts thanking Taylor for, quote, getting daddy his fix. They also found that on a number of occasions, the victims in the videos were kids that Fogle knew from his nonprofit and had been handpicked to be victimized. In multiple cases, Fogle had pictures of the minor saved on his phone and had sent them to Taylor with instructions. Using that information, they were able to get a search warrant for Jared's home and found even more evidence against him. Jared's phone contained 2 images of child pornography that had been sent from Taylor prior to his arrest that hadn't been deleted. Additionally, they found that Taylor had given Fogle a laptop on one of their many trips out of the country, specifically so that Jared could watch child porn. Multiple other devices were found in the home, including a thumb drive with thousands of images and videos, some made by Taylor, and others commercially bought on the dark web. The videos featured children of both genders, the youngest being 6 years old. But that was far from Fogle's only offense. The following is an excerpt from the court documents used in the United States v. Fogle. The investigation also connected Fogle to 2 victims of child prostitution. Fogle had engaged in commercial sex acts with 2 minors, ages 16 and 17, in New York City. Moreover, text messages and emails revealed that Fogle had repeatedly found adult escorts through the internet, developed relationships with them, and offered them finder's fees to provide him with access to minors for commercial sex, including Richmond, Virginia, Kansas City, Missouri, and Las Vegas, Nevada. After being arrested, his second wife would leave him, stating that she was blindsided by the accusations. Jared would quickly plead guilty to the charges set against him after he was offered a plea deal that would have him pay a total of $1.4 million in restitution to the victims. Prosecutors also stated that if he were to sign the deal, they would ask for no more than 12 years. However, the judge personally felt that his crimes spoke for themselves, and after hearing the messages where Jared bragged about sleeping with a 14-year-old, he sentenced him to 15 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 13 years. According to those who were present in the courtroom, prior to being sentenced, Jared addressed the court and tearfully stated that he wanted to become a good, honest person and wanted to redeem his life. He went on to recount that he had tried to live an honorable life before he had been caught up in, quote, Deception lies in complete self-centeredness. Although when this honorable life took place, we will never know. He concluded by stating that he had learned so much about the minors that he had paid to have sex with, and how wrong what he had done was, saying, "Not a day will go by that I don't think about them, what I did, and the impact on their lives." Obviously, those words are entirely hollow, especially given that mere years later, Jared would try to appeal his sentence and claim that he was being unfairly punished because the judge had a prejudice against pedophiles, which should be known as common sense. In court documents, Jared would claim that the judge, having two young daughters, made her negatively biased against him, as they were the same age of the girls he admitted to victimizing. He went further to state that she had punished him not based on his crimes, but based on the fact that he had fantasized about sleeping with kids, which wasn't illegal. As previously touched upon, there was no mention of Rochelle in the legal documents that were set forth against Fogle. It would appear that despite her evidence showing that she went to multiple law enforcement agencies, they had chosen not to take her claims very seriously. She had stacks of recorded conversations with Jared that were years old, and text messages that she had shared with the FBI and other law enforcement showing that he, at the very least, was stating privately that he had slept with multiple children, but they refused to act on it, saying it wasn't concrete. Apparently, him directly stating that he had paid for sex with children and enjoyed traveling overseas to sleep with them wasn't enough evidence to be taken seriously by law enforcement. But Russell Taylor asking to have sex with a horse was. The FBI has remained silent on this case, and many have speculated and asserted that Rochelle is just as bad as Jared, and only tried to contact law enforcement.
So they ain't want to hear all the shit about this rich guy doing shit, but soon as nobody talk about a horse, it's, oh, we need to, yeah, we need to get on, we need to see what that's about. Yeah, but you know how God worked. That ended up uncovering that.
When he directly asked her to place hidden cameras in her children's rooms for him, so he could prey on them as well. In one of the most popular videos talking about the case, they go so far as to infer that she only cared when his pedophilic eyes wandered towards her own kids, but had no problem with what he had done previously, as she was into it.
Saying how he found middle school girls attractive, and this shocked Rochelle to record. So she ended up baiting him along a little bit further and started recording it, seeing what she could get out of him. Now remember, she was sleeping with Jared this whole time and knew this, that he was into underage people. But that last part, that was the tipping point. Other kids, that's fine. But her kids, out of line. So Rochelle filed a serious complaint with the FBI in 2011. Though the FBI couldn't do much about it because it's audio evidence. There wasn't actually enough to even put him behind bars, convict him, or even get a search warrant. Now, in multiple interviews, Rochelle has claimed that she was the woman that brought down Jared Fogle, and that the FBI used her as an informant, and that she wore a wire and took him down. Well, I find that hard to believe because, number one, the FBI has not confirmed any of these recordings. Number two, they weren't actually used in the court case. And number three, why would the FBI put a wire on her for years, record all this stuff, and then not do anything about it until way later in the future? We're talking 7 years.
He put, because admitting they knew about Jared's actions and didn't move forward with an investigation makes them look bad. Exactly, that's what I said. How does she tell y'all about all this shit and y'all don't start an investigation? There are articles that have FBI agents directly stating that they were aware of the evidence that Rochelle have collected, but chose not to move forward with it because it wasn't hard evidence. Come on, man. This inaction by the FBI is not something that they would be interested in confirming, but seeing as their evidence has been verified by multiple third
This,
parties.
as we know, cannot be the case, as Rochelle and the Sarasota, Florida Police Department have confirmed that she reported Jared as early as 2007, after he made lewd comments about middle school girls. But because of the amount of evidence she compiled, and the fact that most people do not want to believe that the agencies set up to protect the public refused to act on a very obvious case of pedophilia, she, like Joanna before her, has been mislabeled and slandered. But alas, Rochelle was not the only woman who Jared had slept with that tried to report his wrongdoings. According to the FBI, in 2008, Jared had begun to sleep with the Subway franchise owner, Cindy Mills, after meeting her at the grand opening of a store. Their sexual relationship had developed quickly, and he had begun to ask her to do uncomfortable things. In one instance, Jared told her that if she posted an advertisement of herself on Craigslist, had sex with a handful of strangers and let him watch, he would pay her $500 per man. When he brought up Craigslist, she responded, "Is this the same website you found that 16-year-old girl you fucked? I still can't believe you only paid $100 for her." "It was amazing," he replied. Later on in their messages, he texted her, asking her to introduce him to her underage cousin. He then followed up by asking her to envision a three-way between all of them. While sexting with her, he asked her how young she was willing to go sexually, and seemed disappointed in her answer. It would seem at some level, Cindy was more comfortable with the sexualization of minors that Jared was pushing her towards. At some point, Cindy got uncomfortable with their conversations and reported the communication to Subway, attaching the messages as proof. She met with two different levels of management, one which determined that since Jared wasn't an employee of Subway, that no violations had occurred. The other level of management assured her he would no longer be allowed at the franchise she owned. When she told them he shouldn't be allowed to interact with young people, they agreed, but did nothing to stop that from happening. Cindy also stated that she called the company's CEO at the time, Jeff Moody. Cindy said that she informed Jeff directly of what Jared had told her, and explained that he had previously said he slept with a child as young as 9. Moody then allegedly told her not to worry about it, as Jared had started dating Kathleen, and she would, quote, keep him grounded. Subway's corporate office denied these.
He told her, don't worry about it, because now he got a girl and she keep him tamed? That's Subway. Bro, I'm never fucking with Subway again, bro. I'm never fucking with Subway again, bro.
Claims, but did confirm that a complaint had been made about Fogle previously by Cindy, and it did include some of what she said it did. Because of this and other claims of inappropriate behavior done by Jared over the years, it very...
A person that worked in Subway, that worked for Subway, that probably pays him to do what he do. When she brought it to their attention that this man was having... I don't even feel comfortable even saying this shit, bro. That this man's a pedophile. That they said that, okay, he's with somebody now that's gonna keep him tamed. That's what they said. People that work for Subway. People that work with the Subway higher ups. That's what they said. Man, this is what we dealing with, man. This is what we dealing with. This is what we dealing with, y'all. Think about it, man. This is what we dealing with, man. We dealing with state troopers who catfish kids and go kill their families to try to kidnap the kids and take them. We dealing with FedEx drivers who kidnap kids and kill them. Bro, like, when you think about the shit that goes on, it's like, man, bro, it's like, I will be super overly protective, like, of my kids and like it'd be hard for me like to even bring a kid into this world. Everybody wants to leave a legacy. You know what I'm saying? You want to leave a legacy. You want to have kids that gonna, make you let your name live on and all that. And in this world, though, in this world that's infested with people that love to kill and people that have a thirst for um, taking advantage of kids. And like they said, like he just said, the younger the better. This is the world we're living in. Where they can fly to other countries and live out these devilish acts. I don't even want to say devilish. I'm gonna just say wicked. Like, man, I don't know. This ain't. I don't even think the devil. I don't even know. I don't even know if the devil with that shit. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's just some man, bro. This shit just, bro. It's like if you got kids and you post them on social media, you damn near a fucking fool. I'm gonna keep it real with you. You a fucking fool. If you post your kids on social media, your babies, your kids that ain't old enough to post they self yet, you bogus as hell. First of all, you bogus as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because you exposing your kids to a life and to a people that they never asked to be exposed to, and that they don't know and you don't know, and you exposing them to these people you don't know, and they don't know them either, but they gonna know them. Yeah, they gonna be able to watch them grow up and watch them. Yeah, and you the fucked up parent that's letting that happen, and so that means you contribute to what's going on. Yeah, you offer your kids up to what's going on. You offer your kids up to these fucking pedophiles. If you post your kids on social media and shit like that, yeah, you offering your fucking kids up. And you need to check your motherfucking self.
Subway locations and events, Kathleen sued Subway, alleging that the corporation knew of his sexual depravity and protected Jared's reputation. She claimed they willingly put kids in danger and cared more about making money than protecting their own customers.
They did.
Since his arrest and sentencing, Jared's life in prison hasn't been what most would expect. Though it is often stated that most pedophiles and sex offenders are attacked in prison and their lives are made considerably harder, that has not been the case with Jared. Sans one beating after arrival, Jared has been living rather comfortably, according to a former inmate who was incarcerated with him. According to Mark Brooks, in 2019, Jared was living the high life in prison. Because he was in a well-respected, low-security prison, Jared had access to a bevy of self-improvement programs and classes that he was readily taking advantage of. Brooks stated that Jared had begun taking cooking classes and was making 5-star meals for himself. He also claimed that Jared had begun a fitness routine that caused him to lose even more weight than he had on his Subway diet. After Brooks's statement, a reporter reached out to Jared to confirm these claims, and Jared wrote this letter November 2021. Dear Blank, thank you for taking the time to reach out and write me. At this time, I am not doing any interviews. To answer a couple of your questions, whoever posted that I was taking culinary arts is wrong. I have not. COVID protocols the past 2 years have limited the programming being offered here at FCI Inglewood. In response to the rigorous fitness regimen, that is true. I run 4 to 5 miles every day and am the most healthy and in shape I have ever been. We don't have a lot of control over our daily lives in prison, but
Well,
working
fuck
out is
about
one
what
of
this
the
nigga
things I
living life
can
in
control.
prison.
I currently weigh 180 pounds. I try to avoid too much junk food. I snack on granola bars, nuts, and protein bars. I feel really good physically and mentally. This time of year, I love watching college and NFL football, which makes the weekends fly by. I read the New York Times daily and like reading all kinds of books, especially historical fiction. I still love to laugh and smile. I realize I
I don't give a
royally
fuck
screwed
about
up
you wanting to
to wind
smile.
up here where I am. I
Fuck
was
your
selfish and
smiles.
entitled. I think about all the people I've let down every single day, especially my family. All I can do is learn from my stupid mistakes to be a better
Stupid
man when I am
mistakes. Nigga,
released
you
in
a
a few
fucking
years. I
sicko.
very much look forward to restarting my life and enjoying every moment with my family who have stood by and supported me. I'm so lucky to have them. There is no parole in the federal system. You have to do at least 85% of your sentence. I really don't know what I'll do in the future. It is sort of an open book, I guess. Prison takes away so much, but I really miss all the small things, like walking around barefoot on carpet, sleeping on a nice comfy mattress, eating with real silverware, and having access to a microwave. There is a line in
Fuck
the
you.
Shawshank Redemption movie that goes something like, "You can get busy living or get busy dying when you are sent to prison." I've done everything I can to get busy living and make the most of this unwanted experience. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving holiday. Stay safe and healthy. All the best, Jared Fogle. Similarly, Fogle hasn't had a hard time finding companionship in prison, as multiple women have admitted to calling him regularly and talking to him sexually. Despite what he has done, phone calls in which women talk explicitly to Fogle while he is in prison have been released, and it appears at the very least he has learned nothing, still putting in special requests to his paramours for them to do explicit acts for him.
Yeah, you could definitely put pictures, yeah. After Roche got my letter, you could definitely put pictures.
Okay, what is the guidelines on sending pictures?
Okay.
What is the guidelines on sending pictures to you?
You can't show boobs or pussy or anything like that. You know, but other than that, it's pretty much whatever. So, I mean, the mailroom can always reject stuff. The mailroom can always reject stuff if they want to, but it just depends. So it's just, it's like everything else. It's just sort of hit or miss.
Okay. Well, do you want like a regular picture of us?
Yeah.
Just regular, because we were just hanging out yesterday and we took a bunch of pictures. I mean, like recent pictures.
Okay. Yeah, no, please send me pictures.
And what about you, Jared? What do you prefer?
I like everything. I don't know. I mean, I like big boobs.
I got big boobs.
I like that. I like some, I don't like super skinny or anything like that.
The earliest date Jared could be released is in 2029, 7 years from when this is uploaded. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing.
Man, this motherfucker, this shit crazy. Think about it, man. This man lost a bunch of weight, got rich, and that's what he decided to do with it. So before all he lost the weight and all that, he was still that pedophile. He just happened to get rich and lose weight in the process. And when he get out of jail, he gonna still be the same person, cause he ain't learned shit. He living life in jail, like he just said. He living like whatever. So he ain't learned shit. When he get out, he gonna do something worse. So he should never get out. Yeah, he should never get out. But yeah, man, this shit fucked up, man. I can't really do no more of these kids shit, man. This shit man, I can't. This shit make me sick, man. I can't do it, man. But yeah, man. Like, subscribe, man. Do all that YouTube shit, man. Hit that bell notification too. Like I said, you want to support the channel or whatever, DTL92.com.